Hey folks, welcome back. In a different video, earlier video, I had shared how you could collect data via a Google form. In this case, we may have a simple form, complicated form. We're collecting data and we're collecting the email address of the users in our domain. So we're automatically collecting who's filling out the form. And then we're collecting that data. And here we're collecting, let's say this is students, could be staff. We're looking at wanting to distribute the collected data to individual staff or students based on their email address. So in an earlier version of this, I showed how you can use a function in Data Studio where you can set your data up. In this example, where you come in here and you click on this filter by email and you set up the fact that you're filtering the data in this Data Studio project by email. So if I log in, I just see what I have. In a different example here, if I move this user over, user 2, if I just see student 2's information, and if I resubmit, you would see that this would pop up. So that's one way to be able to distribute your form data that you've collected using Data Studio. Another way is to use the import range and create a new sheet for each person. Well, that could become really tedious. Let's look at what it looks like. I have a user sheet, and in this user sheet, I am using an import range. Now, in what I've done here is created a sheet when hidden this column, and in this column, I have the URL of the daily response sheet. I have the data, and I have this third field, which is the student name, and we're populating that with AppScript. We'll see in a moment. So I keep that column hidden, and then here's what happens. The import range says, if you look at import range, it says what you need to do is get a spreadsheet URL, and then you need to get a range string. And so what we're doing is hiding those bits of information over here in column 1, so we can just put import range A1, A2. And then we're selecting everything where column 2 is equal to A3, and A3 is that email address. So let's see how we're making that work. We come over here, and we have a sheet here. And on this sheet, I basically have the user sheet, as you saw, one that gets created. I just have that as a tab, and we're using that as a template to create the data for the user. So what we do, create a new sheet for each user. I'm doing this with an app script, and the app script looks like this. First of all, I've set some global variables, and I am setting these so that they work with my different functions where I have to add more functions. And then I'm using the onOpen, the UI, to create this menu. You can see my menu here. My menu has an add users. That's a new menu. That's that function. And then this function is creating a new user sheet, giving it a name of the name that's in the email address. We are creating the new sheet. We're copying it to the folder that we want it stored in. And then we are getting the new sheet name, and we're setting the value of the in A3, and that's where we're getting that third value we are using in our import range. We're using that and setting that value here. So that's the app script. I'm not going to go into full details on how I wrote that, but and it's a great app script. I was introduced to by a friend. So here's how this works. I'll go ahead and put this one away. This is one I just recently created. I guess let me hit that, and then I can put this away. Okay, so we're coming in here, and what I want to do is I don't have a sheet yet. As you can see, I have student 2, student 1, and student 3. I don't have student 4 yet, so in order to make sure I'm getting that correctly copied onto my clipboard, I've created a list of my students and created their email addresses. I did all that actually using a join function, so I know that they're all correct. Then I'm going to come over here and I'm going to run my script, add users, add new user. Who's this sheet for? I can paste in my student 4. And in a moment, you'll see it's going to create a new sheet for student 4. And I can just open that up and see what it looks like. And you can see right here, I have an initial time I run this, I have a reference error. You need to connect these sheets, so I allow access. And there we go. Now there's the data. Now I don't have any data for user 4, but if I were to come back here to my daily info responses, and let's say I wanted to just, I'd have to log in as student 4. I don't want to do that right now. I'm just going to change this to student 4. That won't matter. This is just a test. And now when I come back to my student 4, there's that particular set of data. So in summary, here's another way you could create a form. And if you want to share that information off to the people who are submitting it so they can only see their own piece, you can use this idea. And notice here I've actually put that folder ID. When you take a look here, you'll see that the folder ID is right here. It's everything after folders / I grab that folder ID and I put that folder ID here because my script is pulling it from there to make the folder ID. We have a user sheet template that does all the work for us, and we just run the script, and I can very quickly go ahead and create a new sheet for each student as needed. And then as they submit to this form, they're going to see their data on their sheet.